All right, everybody, welcome back to the next section of our card review show for Wailing Caverns. When we left off, we had just finished up the review of the class-specific cards up to Rogue, so we are now on Shaman. Getting right into it, the first Shaman card that we have is called Wailing Vapor. This is a 1-mana 1/3 elemental that says after you play an elemental, gain +1 attack. I think this is kind of cute because when we did the last card review, we were talking about elementals and the idea, that they're trying to push elemental shaman. It makes sense to me from a flavor perspective, or class identity perspective. But the prerequisite that you play an elemental each turn is difficult. That being said, like a 1-mana 1/3 is not bad. So, I mean, for me, this feels like a standard card so that I can build Elemental Shaman in standard. Could I build Elemental Shaman in wild? I guess. I don't know why I would want to do that, but you could. Something that the devs had mentioned a little while back, and I can't quote it per se, but they had said that, hey, from a class identity point of view, each card needs a solid 1-drop, or each class needs a solid 1-drop that's a 1/3 that does what it needs to do. Now, Spell Power Shaman has their new 1-mana whatever it is. Is it a 1/3? I don't remember. That gives something spell damage +1.
It's a 3/2.
A 3/2. Yeah, geez.
Yeah.
I mean, this is interesting in that deck, which is not a good deck. I don't see this being played in wild at all. But it's kind of neat. So, I mean, this is a 1 for me. I still need some shaman wins in standard, so I'm open to testing out this archetype, but I don't think it's maybe that great. Sheep?
I do declare, Mr. Wolf, I have a touch of the vapors. Because it's Wailing Vapor.
Oh boy. Yeah.
I mean, you said everything that needed to be said. But it's a 1 for me as well. Maybe eventually we'll have impactful enough things, but if you miss a drop with elementals, then you miss it. This one kind of, you miss that elemental train that keeps on rewarding it. This gives you something to actually build upon rather than relying on having done things previously, which is nice. But it's Wailing Vapor is not gonna get you there with that archetype. So yeah, it's a 1. The art is amazing, which is also indicative of of the 1. What do you think, Hydra?
I think at first glance, I sort of had high hopes when you see 1-mana 1/3. If you do this, gain 1 attack. Kind of reminded me of Tunnel Trog. Sounded pretty cool, but this is a worse Tunnel Trog, and we don't even play Tunnel Trog. And at least Tunnel Trog went off of Overload. This is Elementals. We don't play Elementals in Wild. Solid stat line. 1-mana 1/3 is amazing. Get a bonus. Amazing. Do we play this archetype? We absolutely do not.
With enthusiasm.
So, holy crap, could this have been cool if this was a supported archetype? It is not a supported archetype, so it is not played. It's a 1. It's a 1. It's so sad, but it's a 1.
It's a 1/3.
Yeah. All right. Next up is Perpetual Flame. This is a 1-mana rare fire spell. It says deal 3 damage to a random enemy minion. If it dies, recast this. Overload 1. Okay. This card is rad, but the overload stacks. And that is a super bummer. So this card, devastating to aggro. Okay, this is a 1-mana board clear for odd paladin, for pirate warrior, for whatever aggro deck pirate warrior really, or whatever other aggro deck you're playing it against, Demon Hunter or whatever it is. Like, yeah, man, this is gonna cause some salt, and then you're not gonna be able to play any cards for like 3 turns. I mean, so full board clear, like Overload 7, or whatever it is. So, it's super cool. The Overload stacking makes me really nervous to play it because you potentially are going to lock yourself out of the next several turns, maybe, depending on when you play it. I mean, I don't know. If you compare this to Unstable Felbolt in Warlock, like, that says deal 3 damage to an enemy minion and, deal damage to yourself or to your own minion or random minion on your side or whatever it is. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess this is, maybe you can't compare it to that. Maybe you compare it to, I don't know. This is different, right? But this Overload creates issues. I don't know. Like, in initial scoring, I gave it a 3 because I think that there's some potential here for like devastating board clear against aggro, but locking yourself out of later turns. Now, it depends when in the game I play this. Like, hey, if you're playing your aggro token druid deck and you swarm me on turn 1 or 2 or whatever, turn 3, turn 4, and have a whole board and I'm able to wipe it, that's cool. But like, are you going to recover faster than I recover? I don't know. I'm somewhere between cautiously optimistic and like skeptical. I'm going to give it a 3, but like, I don't know, man. Yeah. It's like Lurker Below without the body. I think that's a decent comparison. It's the Overload. How much does Lurker Below cost? 6, I think. So that's probably how much this is going to cost. I mean, really. So I don't know. I'll give it a 3. I think that the effect is rad. There's just, for the crazy upside, there's a pretty crazy downside as well. Sheep, what do you think?
Oh, I think you hit the nail on the head. One thing worth noting is that Overload, while it stacks for the next turn, it doesn't stack for multiple turns. So like, for example, if on turn 1 I Lightning Bloom, play a 5-drop, right? I'm only overloaded for the next turn, even though 4 mana was overloaded.
You're correct. Right? Yes. No, you're absolutely correct. You're right. Yes.
So just a point of clarity there. I think that Perpetual Flame is super solid, and this helps it kind of help something like Big Shaman get into the mid and late game where it really flourishes. One of the things that Big Shaman in particular kind of had a hard time dealing with was early board states of things with, the aggressively statted minions, and things like aggro druid or pirate warrior or a lot of which have the the breaking point of that 3 damage. And Blue Train send in a question mark. I probably misspoke about one of the things that Big Shaman needed, but in my less adept hands at piloting Big Shaman, that's where I've kind of stumbled, is getting into the mid and late game where Big Shaman can really take hold of the game. So I think Perpetual Flame is amazing. Like, if I can play this if I need to play it as early as turn 2, then cool, I've surrendered my turn 3. If I'm playing this on like a turn 4 or something, then I can, maybe play this probably won't be Big Shaman, but Manatide Totem or something like that then my opponent is incentivized to trade into that turn, while I can't develop the next turn because I'm overloaded. I at the very least can play something to either contest the board that they make later, or give them something that they need to contest after that. So I think Perpetual Flame is really solid. I'm also going to go with a 3 because I can see a couple of like really good use cases for it. I almost talked myself into it too because I don't know how much of them are particularly meta, despite how incredibly powerful the card itself is.
I could see
What do you think,
people
Hydra?
playing this in like a Reno Shutterwalk Shaman as well.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, Hydra. Hydra, what do you think?
In my head, I'm trying to so if we're gonna do a board clear, right? Like let's say, for example, we did get to fill up as a pirate deck or an aggro druid. The board is full, and we're gonna do 3 damage. We're hoping for a board clear for 1 mana, and we're shaman. So I'm thinking, what else does that? Lightning Storm does that for 3 mana, right? It now does 3 damage no matter what. It's not 2 or 3. It's gonna do 3 every single time. But we're loaded what? We're overloaded for 2 now. On Lightning Storm, we're overloaded for 2. So we're a guaranteed overloaded for 2 for 3 mana. So we would have to wait until turn 3 to play Lightning Storm, which may be ideal. Maybe we do want the board to get a little bigger. We want the druid to, drain their hand a little bit. What am I going to pick? Really, out of these two? I mean, Lightning Storm, you have to wait for Perpetual Flame. It is a lot sooner. Like, I don't think this is a bad card. I do think it does basically the identical thing to Lightning Storm. Lightning Storm is guaranteed to clear more things because you could whiff and say they've got something with 4 health, right? Like the Nerubian that's on the board. You hit that one because this is random. Don't forget, it's gonna hit a random minion first, so you can whiff with this card. You can totally whiff.
I didn't think about that. Yeah,
and so Lightning Storm is going to hit everything, and if something happens to have 4 health, well, okay, that one survives with 1 health. So in that case, I think Lightning Storm actually is better. I'm going to drop this one to a 2 because I think that you can put this in your deck. I think that it's a good card. I don't think that it's going to be jammed into every meta deck. So it's going to be 2. I think it's a really good card. I really do. But it does have the potential of, whoops, like that completely whiffed on me and I didn't clear anything. Whereas Lightning Storm will hit the entire board every time.
I like that take. I think that's interesting. Okay, next up we have Primal Dungeoneer. Again, we talked about this a little bit last week. This is a 3 mana 2/3 Battlecry, draw a spell. If it's a nature spell, also draw an elemental. I don't really think that this has a home in Wild, mostly because this is trying to play off that elemental synergy. Shaman is somewhat lacking in draw in Wild, not a ton. There's some. I can't think of the names. It was Farsight or something. I think it's 3 and it reduces by 2. Okay. And then there's the one that draw 2 overload. But I don't think that I don't think that this really has a home in Wild. Like, cool, I can draw a spell, but like, what sort of nature spell am I wanting to play in Wild with Shaman? And am I wanting to draw an elemental in Wild? Like, I just don't see it. It's an interesting card, but I feel like people just got a bunch of words, spell, nature, elemental, and jammed them onto one card that doesn't synergize super well with itself. It's just funky. I don't know. I mean, I I think it's a 1 for me. I feel a little bit bad saying that, but like I just don't see where it fits. Sheep, what do you think?
This is for sure a standard card.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are a number of standard cards that this wants to hit, like Serpent Shine Portal, Storm Strike, of course, Lightning Storm, which we have too. Lightning Bolt, Lightning Bloom. Like there are a number of nature cards that we would like to hit with that. And, of course, elementals. Last week I was talking about how Elemental Shaman has the possibility of being really strong in Primal Dungeoneer, in particular in Wild. I really don't like in Elemental Shaman because Primal Dungeoneer itself is not an elemental. And elementals, except for the vapors that we just talked about earlier, elementals are typically conditional on having played elementals in previous turns. So if I'm playing Primal Dungeoneer on turn 3, hey, I'm drawing an elemental if I hit a nature spell. Let's say I'm running all nature spells, so boom, done. I don't get to proc the effect for the elemental that I just drew. That sucks. Couple that with the fact that we're playing Wild, where we're going to want to play a lot more spells that don't have the nature tag, so it's not a guarantee that we get the benefit from it. And then we're probably also not playing Elemental Shaman if we're doing that thing. So let's say we're playing Highlander Shaman and, we're getting something like Zephyrus. Cool. Yeah, we really want Zephyrus, but are we always going to get there? Maybe, maybe not. Is drawing a spell in general worthwhile for a 3-mana 2/3? No. Yeah, this is a 1 for me. Like, I can see how and where and why this is being printed for standard. It's just not meant for us. What do you think, Hydra?
It's not only is it conditional, it's conditional times 2. Like you're gonna draw, if you want to get the full effect, you're looking to draw a spell, and it has to be a nature spell. And then to get the second part, you need to be running elementals and not have already drawn these elementals. So like this is so specific for what you're trying to do to get its full effect. I don't think that it's worth it to really try to look for all of the stars to align on this. When we're going to run nature spells, we're going to run elementals. Then suddenly, you're running one of those decks that have 7 keywords. We're running a nature elemental, Shudderwalk, Reno, Jade Shaman, and whose win condition is blah, 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 blah. That has another 7 lines. Like it just seems it's way too much. Cool card. It could possibly draw you 2. It could also completely brick, and it's under statted for regular 3 drop, but it's got a decent body for the effect. But sorry, no dice. 1 star.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps it up for Shaman. So moving on to my favorite class, Warlock. All right. First up, we have a spell called Final Gasp. This is a 1-mana shadow spell. It says deal 1 damage to a minion. If it dies, summon a 2/2 adventurer with a random bonus effect. The random bonus effect adventurers are cute. This is like, I'm never going to play this ever, 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 ever. I don't know. Like, you compare this to like Blood to Ichor, or it's a warrior spell, or you compare it to I don't even remember what it's called. The 1-mana one that does 1 damage, and if it kills it, draw a card. You know what I'm talking about?
Mortal Coil.
Thank you. And I don't play that either. Like, I just don't see it. The flavor is great. This is a 1 for me. I don't like it. Sheep.
So the art is amazing. for the uninitiated, when we start talking about the art in a card or like off the bat, that's a 1. That said, the flavor with if it dies, then you summon an adventure with a random bonus effect. That's pretty cool, and the flavor is awesome with the art. And like we're talking about the art. This may be good. I don't even know if this is good in standard. I don't have a pulse on arena or duels. This is not for us. Over in wild. What do you think, Hydra?
I tried. So like my first thought was, okay, if I'm gonna run 1 mana, deal 1, it's Mortal Coil instantly because I'm looking to draw. I'm removing something early game. We keep it against aggressive decks. This, I suppose you also could keep against an aggressive deck, but you're not getting closer to what your win condition is, which seems like a bad idea for me. You're stalling. You are, but I mean, it's not bad. It's 1 mana, kill something if they have a 1 health minion on board. So also very conditional. You're going to want to keep this against an aggro deck. I don't think that it's bad, but I also think that we're playing much better cards right now. And then I started thinking like, okay, does this go in like your cute lock or whatever? Something I'm like, I don't see it there either. Like, what do you have that's 1 mana that you'd want to kill even on your own side to get a death rattle benefit and anything? Like, I don't know. I'm not placing this anywhere.
Warlock,
I don't think it's
Warlock is extremely refined in Wild. Like, arguably one of the best classes between Reno Lock and Dark Glare and some of the other broken combos, and like this just isn't good enough.
No,
and frankly, like random, I don't like that either. That's I have like a specific purpose in mind, and it's to kill you.
Yeah.
And
well, I do think
Warlock.
I will say that paying 1 mana to take out your Buccaneer from Rogue or like whatever, and then replacing it with a 2/2 for myself is really powerful. Like I don't think that that's a bad trade. Have you seen what Warlock can do in the first like 1 or 2 turns?
oh yeah,
Like it's insane. And while removing something and making a 2/2 is cool, it's nowhere near as what they can do right now. So I don't think it sits in a game plan. However, not a bad card, and I don't want to be too big of a jerk to it, so I'm going to give it a 2.
I do think there was a time when we were running Mortal Coil in Reno Lock. I do think that time has passed, but
Yeah,
even then, Mortal Coil, like both of you were saying, draws you towards your win condition. It thins your deck. It grabs something from your deck that you want to actually be playing, versus like the 2/2 doesn't scale, right?
no,
yeah,
That's a big deal.
yeah. Well, whatever.
yeah.
Okay.
The only reason that I couldn't fully give it the bottom of the barrel is in against aggro, you could take something out and make something out. You know what?
No. I mean, I think that's.
No, I think I'm good with 2. I think like I do think it's okay. Like I do think it's somewhat good. So yeah, I'm gonna stick with. I keep convincing myself it's worse than it is, but I don't think that that's a bad effect. Like I don't think that it is.
No, I agree.
Yeah, no. I think that's fair. Okay, so next up is Unstable Shadow Blast. This is a 2 mana shadow spell. It says deal 6 damage to a minion. Excess damage hits your hero. I think this is pretty strong, actually, in the right deck. Dark Glare is what I'm looking at. I think that, in particular, like, this synergizes pretty well with that. It's interesting, when I look at this card, I think of the standard Hunter spell that does 6 damage to something and then carries over to the enemy minion. Now, this does it to yourself. But, like, 2 mana deal 6? And so when I look at this, it's like, hey, what if they play something that has 6 health and I get to kill it for 2 mana, and then it does 0 damage to me. That's great.
Yeah.
Or if I drop it into Dark Lair, it is a shadow spell, so it does have synergy with Tamsin. This seems strong to me. I mean, I gave it a 4. I think that this is I'm not a Dark Lair player. I have not spent the time to. I mean, I can wing it, but I've not really spent the time to really get to know that well. But like, it does what that deck wants to do, which is control the board, damage yourself, so that you can play your giants early. This seems good to me. I don't really see the downside, frankly. So yeah, that's a 4 from me. Sheep, what do you think?
Yeah, the Dark Lair is tier 1 already.
Mm-hmm.
This slots into that deck seamlessly. It does what you want to be doing and removing your opponent's board while damaging yourself, so that you can either get more mana and or like discount your giants earlier, easier. Like, yeah, this is easily a 4. It's only not a 5 because without this card, like it's not going to define the meta. Dark Lair is already tier 1. This isn't going to bump it up into tier 1. It's going to help it. It's definitely going to be played in that deck. So it's easily a 4. I can't say enough good things about Unstable Shadow Blast. What do you think, Hydra?
Bring back Evenlock?
Dude. Maybe, though.
Maybe. I mean, Dark Lair is probably better, but it's even, and that's the first thing that I thought is, what does Evenlock like to do? It likes to hurt itself, and it likes to put big things on the board. And how do you do that? You hurt yourself. So, and you can do that while clearing other things. While that is not a tier 1 deck and loses really hard to stuff like Secret Mage that just hits you in the face with fireballs, this goes amazingly into Dark Lair, which is a tier 1 deck, which there is no arguing with the way that we scale things. This has to put it at a solid 4.
Wow. Finally a good card. Speaking of good cards.
Speaking of
I know what's coming.
You sure do.
Yeah, so I spent yesterday evening playing about 30 games of this deck. So I'm sorry, I forgot to announce the card. This is Stealer of Souls. This is a 4-mana 2/6 demon that says after you draw a card, change its cost to health instead of mana. Okay, this card is busted. There is a broken combo. Here it is, if you're not aware. You play Stealer of Souls with Plot Twist, and then you play a card that makes you invulnerable. Primarily, this is Violet Illusionist, because it's a lot cheaper, but you can also play Mal'Ganis. And then you cycle your whole deck, and there's 2 different kind of wombo combos. There's like the big version where, cool, now I'm immune and I'm going to play all of my cards for free. So I'm going to drop a Lotheb, and I'm going to drop Nerubian Unravelers, and I'm going to drop a couple of Colossuses while I'm at it so that you can't touch my board. And I can do this as early as turn 5, potentially earlier. Like if you're running the book that discounts your next demon. Like I think I've popped off as early as turn 4 with this. I discounted this twice and then played Plot Twist on turn 4 and got a board full of 40 plus attack. Like I took a bunch of screenshots, and so the real culprit here, I think I saw Martian Boo post something earlier that I thought was a pretty good solution to this, that essentially says if you're immune, you can't pay health instead of mana because you're not paying health, which is an interesting idea. I'm not explaining it very well, but definitely meta warping. The other way that you can use this is with Mechathune, and same idea. You can pop off as like turn 5, turn 6. It's a little bit draw dependent. I was talking to NHL, in the Discord, and he was saying that this deck loses to itself. Like, hey, if I draw these 2 cards, then I win, and if I don't draw these 2 cards, then I lose. And you know, I don't disagree with that. I'm at like a 68% win rate with this deck, which I feel is pretty strong, but I'm like a little bit less than Diamond 10 right now. Like, I haven't played that much. And so it's definitely busted. I think it reminds me of Tiller a little bit, although Tiller was an OTK. This is slower. It's draw dependent. You really have to be good with your APM because the animation, like, there's a lot of animation, and if you play too slow, you're gonna miss it.
Especially with plot twist.
Oh goodness, yeah, and I think that NHL is right in that the question is it really that good, or is it the flavor of the week because people are trying the new broken thing? I tend to agree with him that it's probably more of that. Like, this deck loses hard to aggro.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, you speak from experience, right? I mean, you're farming them right now. That being said, I don't think that the combo in general is healthy for the format. I gave this a 5 because I think that it's meta warping. I mean, I saw someone post, I think it was Swagwire earlier, post his like daily HS replay stats, and it was 50% Warlock today. And I'm not surprised because everyone wants to try this thing. So what I anticipate is this getting nerfed somehow. I'm not quite sure what that is, but it's meta warping in a way that is probably unhealthy for the game, in my opinion. And that's as a Warlock main. Like, is it really that good? Like, arguable. But it's such a feels bad thing, and is probably not healthy for the format. That's my 2 cents on it. Sheep, what do you think?
Yeah. So Stealer of Souls and the whole combo, be it the big version that you were talking about or the Mechathud version, which requires even more APM because you have to draw your entire deck.
It's very slow. Yeah, you got to really be fast.
Yeah. It's possible. And you can do that, if you play Demonic Studies, 2 of those, you can do that as early as turn 3. Demonic Studies on 1, Demonic Studies on 2, Coin, Souls, Plot Twist. I mean, you can just win the game turn 3. That's crazy. That said, the whole thing is also just polarized, right? Like you said, whatchamacallit, it loses hard to aggro. Like it's very polarized. So Control has a really hard time beating it. Aggro, it has a really hard time beating. And I'm not sure if Stealer of Souls will be nerfed or not, just because I'm not sure like if it's consistent or like the overall stats show that it's going to necessitate a nerf. That said, I mean, this created its own archetype immediately, with good reason. Like, it's fun, it's cool, it's the new hotness, it's fun, it's like, yeah. I think that this one, that for me, obviously, is a 5 as well. But I think that's more of an observation than it is a forecast, right? Like, it's still early days, and that has completely warped that meta because it is a new archetype. I don't know if we're going to see a nerf or not, just because, yeah, Quest Rogue is exactly what I thought of whenever we were thinking about this. We actually were posting in the Discord earlier, !! Discord on Twitch if you're there. Um, uh, that is one of the things that we were talking about whenever we were talking about Stealer of Souls, and it does have, I think, in particular in Wild, a lot more of a consistency than Quest Rogue does, and it's quicker than Quest Rogue was. Like, it's not just trying to get there in the early game. It actually, has things that it can be doing, controlling the board against aggro with defiles, stuff like that. So it's possible, but it's highly polarized, and I think that if it sees a nerf, that it'll be because of the polarization, not necessarily, and the use rate of it, because we're seeing it everywhere right now.
Mm-hmm.
The 5 that I'm giving it is more of an observation than it is a forecasting. Though honestly, if I was forecasting this, like if we were doing this yesterday before the patch hit, that this was the one that everyone was like, yeah, this is going to break the format. This would be a pretty easy one to identify as for that as well. So yeah, for me, it's a 5. What do you think, Hydra?
I think that anytime the devs decide to release something, whether intentional or not, that's going to warp the meta, I think is actually really cool. Even if it's something that everyone complains about, even if it's for a few days, they nerf it. I mean, like, we also complain when things get stale, right? So when something like this comes out, and like, even if it's for a couple days and everything gets warped and everyone needs to play around this, like, to me, that's fun, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that's cool. I know the complaints came right away, like before it was even released. It was already XR, please nerf now. Like, why? And it's like, while yes, it's gonna be broken if you can pull it off, I think when this stuff happens, it's neat, right? Like why not? Like, let's do it for a few days. And if it turns out that it's broken, it's too reliable, sure, let's nerf it. And if it turns out that it's too hard to pull off, like the rogue major domo thing, and then they'll leave it alone, right? I personally played the Mechathune version of this, and I think it's a lot easier to pull off the fill your board with big minions version. Yeah. And I didn't play that version. I'm only saying that based off of only playing the Mechathune version, because playing the Mechathune version, like, you need to know your Warlock cards. Like, because you're drawing fast, and you're filling up your board too, because you're trying to empty your hand as fast as possible, and you can actually fill up your own board and can't even play Mechathune. So you need to make sure that you have room, but you also have the destroy one of your own minions cards, which that works out pretty sweet. So you can make room for the Mechathune.
They also do run Plague of Flames.
Okay, I don't even remember if the version
at the very least early versions did.
Yeah, and so, like, you can fully just, like, get rid of your board. I wasn't running Hemet, but I've seen Hemet being there. Okay. And which is probably a great idea, but you are on, like, I know you have a long time for your turn, but when you're on turn 5 or whatever, and you need to draw through your entire deck, and you're playing out, you're under pressure to get this done. Like, it's not as, like, yes, you can think of it as, oh my god, turn 5 they won, but it's actually, like, not the easiest thing to pull off. The APM is strong with this deck. Like, it really, really is. Based on our scoring, it's got to be a 5, right? It's meta defining, because that is exactly what it's doing right now. Whether it sticks around, that is yet to be seen. But, like, it's super fun. It's super cool. It's fun to try out. You could be like Sheep, and you could just counter it. I know Slizzle did the same thing. He made an aggro rogue and just targeted it. You can target it all day, like, if you want. So I love it when this stuff happens. I think it's cool. I don't necessarily think it's bad for the game unless it's something that takes over and is ignored. I think it's awesome. Love it. 5-star card.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the crazy thing is this has been out for 1 day and it's polarized. Just wait until it gets refined, right? That's when things get a little bit scary. So, we'll see. It's interesting. All right. Well, moving along, we've got Warrior up next and then Neutral. So, let me just scroll down a tiny bit. There we go. Okay.
Nailed it.
All right. Sorry, it has been a long day for me. I apologize. Okay, here we go. First up with Warrior, we have Man at Arms. This is a 2-mana 2/3 battle cry. If you have a weapon equipped, gain +1/+1. This is cute. I'm happy for Man at Arms that they finally named a card after him. So congrats. I don't know. I think this is decent stats for the mana cost. The reason that, like, if this was a pirate, this would be awesome. It is not a pirate, and so that kind of ruins the card for me. The flavor is cute, but as it currently exists, won't be playing it. This is a one for me. Sheep.
Yeah, if Man at Arms was a pirate, this would be like 3 or 4. Like, that is how much that tribe affects the rating of this card. In a vacuum, 2 mana 2/3, 2 mana 3/4. All right, cool. Yeah, it's just without the synergy with the whole rest of the deck, it's just I'm not seeing it for Wild in particular. So I've got to say I agree. For Wild, I don't know. Like, it's really hard to give something that's got good stats for cost, vanilla, and then whenever the condition is met, like, it's even better. A 1. Kind of want to go 2, but I'm gonna listen to my heart. This is a 1-star card. What do you think, Hydra?
It feels so bad, doesn't it? Because, like, when you get to a point where you have to call something that's a 2 mana 2/3 already, and then, like, what does Pirate Warrior do? It plays weapons, right? This is getting the buff so many times, but it's not a pirate, and, like, we don't really have a reason to run it. Pirate Warrior is a great deck right now. It really is, and I mean, this doesn't get drawn by Ankar. It's just, unfortunately, doesn't make the cut, which I don't think it's a bad card. It's definitely a good card. So 1 is so mean, you guys, but like,
everybody's good at something. Being mean just happens to be one of them.
Like it's actually a good card. That's the problem. Like, it's actually a good card, but it's okay. It's a 1.
Meanie.
Yeah. All right.
If it said pirate, it was already like a 4 at least.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up is Whetstone Hatchet. This is a 1 mana 1/4 weapon. It says after your hero attacks, give a minion in your hand +1 attack. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what this is trying to do. A 1 mana 1/4 is interesting, but, like, I'm not playing this in Pirates, and I'm not playing this in Odd, and, like, I know that there's one person out there that plays hand buff warrior, and I think it's Ramen Joke, and I don't think that that's even very good, and this only buffs the attack. So this is just like a giant no for me. I can't. I was trying to find some redeeming qualities and really struggling with it. I feel a little bit bad, but this is definitely a 1 for me.
Whetstone Hatchet. You're a bad card, and you should feel bad. 1. Hydra, what do you think?
Whetstone Hatchet. Your art isn't even good. 1.
Ouch. 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 All right, well, that was easy. Okay, well, we have one of the 4 legendaries here. This is Kresh, Lord of Turtling. Turtling? Turtling? That's an interesting word. That's like that Canadian sport with the discs on the ice, right? Turtling?
That's curling. Come on.
This is a 6-mana 3/9 beast. It says Frenzy, gain 8 armor, Death Rattle, equipped to 2/5 Turtle Spike. This is cute. What I think I don't like, this needs more to be good. Like, yeah, when someone drops this, it's going to be annoying to deal with. But like, I think in order to be good, it needs either Rush or Taunt, and it doesn't have either of those. The stats are pretty darn good for 6 mana, and the Death Rattle is cute. I really struggle with the card though, because like, it reminds me of one of those, like, let's put a bunch of keywords on one card, and it's not actually that good. It's a bunch of like potential goodness, but not goodness enough. This is a 2 for me. I think I don't want to call it bad, but I am also not willing to call it good. Sheep, what do you think?
So it not only has a lot of keywords and a tribe, it's also got 6, 3, 9, 8, 2, 5. It's got 6 numbers on this card. What? And yet it's still not good.
I saw Zeddy crafted it in gold, which makes me think, like, is there something that I'm missing here? Is there some like synergy or some combo or something that I just don't see? But like, I really don't see it.
I didn't see that Zeddy had done that, but I can only imagine that that's for the memes. If it's not, I would love to be proven wrong. But I just don't see it. Yeah, this is a 1 for me. What do you think, Hydra?
I think here's the problem. I'm just gonna say the things that are wrong with it. It's not a pirate. It's a beast. It's even cost, so it's not an odd warrior card. I don't see it saying taunt, so it's not a taunt warrior card. So, I mean, that frenzy thing. I mean, when you're forced to hit something with taunt, I guess that works out a little better. It doesn't seem to have anything that I want to do with what Warrior does in Wild right now. There's the possibility of using N'Zoth to bring it back. Either N'Zoth, I suppose, as a beast, or just Death Rattle in general, but that's not what Warrior is really good at doing in Wild. Unfortunately, with all the cool effects and numbers that it has, it doesn't slot into a Wild deck. So in Wild, this is a 1-star card.
Yeah, I think my biggest problem with the card is that it just doesn't have a direction.
It doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
Like it has so many things going on, flashy, cool. Like if I was like 7 years old and I opened this as my legendary, my mind would be blown. And I think that it's so cool because it does so many things. Right? Like, let's put that in right now.
Yeah,
But
so middle of the game costed. Doesn't really trade up into anything because it's only got 3 attack. But it'll take some damage because it's got 9 health.
It has a big butt.
It's got a big butt, but it's got frenzy but no taunt. It's got a death rattle, but a big butt. It's just for wild in particular, like Yeller's saying. Mm.
Yeah, I like the potential with New Zoth. I think,
Yeah.
where I've been experimenting with that a lot is with Demon Hunter. We saw some Menagerie Warrior a while back. Like Vigil saying he's playing Menagerie Rush Warrior in Standard, and it seems pretty good in there. And I could see that. I could see that for sure. Like, hey, like this is it's a lot of stuff on one card, and I can see myself like, okay, if my opponent plays this, I'm gonna kind of roll my eyes and be like, oh wow, okay, this is something I got to deal with. But Wild is so refined that I don't see where it fits, and that's where I struggle with it. Like in Standard, I will play it in Standard as well. I would definitely try it, and I think this Menagerie type build was something that wasn't fully explored. We goofed around with it in Wild for a couple minutes and realized it wasn't quite good enough. It was not that far off when you like a Galakron Menagerie type build. Like it was close. We saw people like Hazer do really, really well with it up in like, top 50 legend or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But New Zoth makes sense to me on like this coming back as a beast in that deck. Like, all right, cool.
And as a quick reminder, when we do score these cards, like we will take Standard into account, and we'll talk about Standard a little bit, but our scores in general are based on the Wild meta.
Mm-hmm.
So if we give something a 1 or a 2, that doesn't mean it's a bad card in other formats.
Oh, 100%.
Except the Whetstone Hatchet.
Yeah. Except for Whetstone Hatchet. If we give it a bad rating, it's because it doesn't create a new archetype or go into an existing Wild archetype.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. But yeah, no, I appreciate the input 100%. Okay, so that wraps it up for Warrior, and now we just have the neutral cards. So moving right along here, we've got looks like 5 cards left. So first up is Meeting Stone. This is a 1-mana 0/2. It says at the end of your turn, add a 2/2 adventure with a random bonus effect to your hand. Like, this is really bad. I don't know. It like the only thing I can compare it to, we've got some of those that say like, at the end of your turn, add a lackey. There's a shaman card. Or I could compare this maybe to like a caravan, or maybe one of those sigils. But like, it'd be one thing if the adventurer like pooped out onto the board, but it goes to your hand. Like, nah, it's cool. I'd rather play lackeys, but thanks. This is a 1 for me. I don't even know that this is good in Standard. I feel bad. Like, I like the adventurers, and when they did that video, they had talked about, hey, this is what a Meeting Stone is, and this is how it works into the lore. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. I like that. It makes me appreciate the card in some regards. The card in and of itself is bad though. Sheep.
You hit pretty much all of the high points there. Like, love the flavor. I mean, the art is a little boring, but that's because of it's a stone. Like that's not an indictment of the art. It's I love the flavor and the story that this card tells, but it's not gonna have me play it in any of my decks. Yeah, this is a 1 for me as well. What about you, Hydra?
Yeah, the problem is it's got 2 health. You can deal with it very easily It's not like the Murloc one, the 0/3 that would continually put out a Murloc, and it actually has synergy with your deck. It's literally just putting out a regular minion, and you can deal with it super easily. So no synergy. I'll see you in Tavern Brawl, Meeting Stone, and that's probably about it. Appreciate the flavor. It's bringing out the new types of cards. I like the fact that they're promoting these adventurers and they're trying to be cool with having all the different effects on them. That's awesome. Probably not going to see any play in Wild. This is a 1-star card in Wild.
I love that you said Tavern Brawl. I could just see it now. There's going to be a Tavern Brawl where, the card in every single deck is nothing but Meeting Stones. And we're just going to play a bunch of Meeting Stones and get a bunch of random 2/2 adventurers.
And they're just going to fight each other.
That'll be
That'll be fun.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Okay, next up is Devouring Ectoplasm. This is a 2-mana 3/2 with a Death Rattle. Summon a 2/2 adventure with a random bonus effect. Again, this plays heavily on kind of the lore and like, what is a dungeon crawl without a gelatinous cube to eat adventurers and their weapons? And I like this. It looks so scary. Carnivorous Cube is so cute, and this is so scary and mean looking. I still, I don't know. Like, I don't know what I would play this in. I would be interested in it more if it had a tribe, and it doesn't. And so I struggle with where to put it. The Death Rattle decks in Wild are super refined, and even then we don't play them all that much. Not these days, or when you do, it's like, okay, it's demons with Death Rattle, or like Big Priest with Death Rattle. But I just I don't see it. It's so fun, but unless I'm totally missing something, I think this is just a 1 for me. Sheep, what do you think?
I can see in Standard playing a Death Rattle Demon Hunter and including Devouring Ectoplasm because I want to have the flavor of the mini set. Even then, you're making it actively worse to do so. I mean, it's not like a bad card. It's just not one that we're going to intentionally run in our deck over other things. It's aggressively statted. Oh, wait, but it's a 3-mana 3/2.
Yeah, if it was 2, maybe. Yeah,
right.
Interesting.
So if it was a 2-mana 3/2 or a 3-mana 4/3, maybe. But yeah, I'm looking at ways to try and maybe make it doable, and unfortunately, in the format, it is not. But it could go into that Tavern Brawl with the Meeting Stones. Mm-hmm. That would be pretty on point too. What do you think, Hydra?
I was looking at Disruptor's comment saying it's a mini shredder, and it made me think that it's a mini piloted shredder that never gives you a Doomsaber. But that being said, yeah, you're always guaranteed to get a 2/2. Stats wise, you're always looking at a 3-mana 5/4.
Yeah.
So stats with a bonus effect every time, whether it be stealth, divine shield, rush, lifesteal, whatever. On paper, that is good. Does it synergize with anything else in any other aggressive deck that we're probably wanting to try to run this in? No, it doesn't really. So while for the stats, it's actually really, really good, it's not going to slot into a current Wild deck, and it is not going to create a new archetype. And if I'm looking for Death Rattles, I'm playing a lot cooler Death Rattles than this one. I'm not looking to bring back later in the game a 3/2. that might possibly give me a cool 2/2. So, unfortunately, not so great. Sounds so bad. I keep being so mean, but it's a one man. It's a one.
It's the
star
nature
card.
of it. Okay,
Yeah.
so let me put into perspective a tiny bit of a maybe newer take on an existing archetype in Wild. So what I've seen over the past month or two is Odd Demon Hunter has been experimenting with a very tiny Death Rattle package. You've got the 1 mana Tusk Piercer that when it dies will draw you a Death Rattle card. Of course, that deck, the nature of it is to play super aggressively because the hero power is great. And so for Death Rattle minions, we're running Leper Gnomes because that's a strong, aggro 1 mana thing. And then, but in the 3 spot, they're running birds, right? And would I rather play a 3 mana 4/3 that's gonna potentially disrupt my opponent's Reno deck, or am I gonna play this that's gonna poop out a 2/2 with a random effect? And what if the random effect isn't what I want? Like, I think that the Albatross is just better in this spot. It's interesting. I would love to discover this off of something.
Yeah.
If I play like discover a Death Rattle card, I might take this. This is cool.
If I get devolved into this or whatever, sure.
I would like to see the golden animation. I bet it's awesome.
Oh, I hope the adventure guy is like. I hope he's just squirming.
His feet kicking out the back. You ever seen someone driving and they've like around Christmas time and they've got like the trunk of the car closed and the Santa Claus legs like hanging out the back of the trunk?
Oh yeah.
That's what I want to see. This guy's legs like flapping around out of the ooze here.
And the cube itself just like laughing maniacally.
Oh my gosh. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving right along, we have got Selfless Sidekick. This is a 7 mana 6/6 neutral minion, no tribe. It says Battle Cry, equipped a random weapon from your deck. Okay. Either this card is really bad or I'm missing something. Like, okay, Tutor Draw is good, but like, what weapon do I want to run?
Box by Knuckles.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think this is really like overcost, and I think I'd rather just run the weapon that I want. Like, there's some good tutored weapon draw, and typically the weapons that we're going to be playing don't cost that much. Like, I don't know. I just don't see it. There might be something here, but if there is, I don't see what it is. And this 7 mana, like, if I'm playing weapons in a deck, I want to be killing you by turn 7 and not playing this minion to equip a random weapon from my deck on turn 7. So like, hey dude, you can run this in your budget Odd Paladin and it will equip your funky brand new 3 costs shield. Right? But like, I don't, why would you do that? I feel bad. Like, the theme of tonight is we're just going to dump all over this set, and I feel a little bit bad about it, but like, I don't see it. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a 1 for me.
So, I mean, I wasn't completely memeing whenever I said Bogspine Knuckles, right?
I mean, there's potential. Or Disruptor saying Skull of the Minari. Like, I like that. I like that. Like,
that's a good one.
If I manage to whiff on it, though, but like by turn 7, I want to be doing other things. That's where I struggle.
You can dilute your deck by running this to hopefully get the skull when you could have just run something better. I don't know.
Yeah, some sort of. It seems high cost for redundancy. Selfless Sidekick is a standard card, and it's a great standard card. Like, can you imagine turn 2 coin Lightning Bloom, drop a 6/6 that also equips Doomhammer, Bogspine Knuckles, like, that. I mean, in standard, maybe also the Bulwark of Azeroth, and not on turn 3, but
Is that still standard?
yeah.
I never know. It's so bad.
So I mean, this kind of thing is for a slower format, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't necessarily want to be paying this much to tutor a weapon out of our deck, even though it pays for the cost of equipping the weapon as well. The things that we want to do in Wild that have weapon synergies are more aggressive, right? We don't typically want to be going late if we're doing that, unless we are, odd warrior running Bulwark of Azeroth and just going like full on control. But at that, I think that list is so tight that I don't think we run Selfless Sidekick. This mini set is coming at the heels of a 4-set meta where they got rid of the classic and basic set. Yes, they included core, but they got rid of a ton of cards, and they're kind of making up for stuff. So they don't have a whole lot of cards in there yet. That's not a bad thing. That this is a good utility card. It's very good for that format. But we have the whole history of cards here. And whereas they're kind of putting some things that work well together in a slower meta because they have less, they just don't have as deep a pool to draw from. Something like this, and some of the ones earlier that like you were lamenting that unfortunately we're kind of dunking on the set. The set wasn't meant for Wild.
No.
And that's not a bad thing.
Right.
So yeah, Selfless Sidekick is a one for me as well. It's got its place in standard, and even at that, it's not a OP card there either. What do you think, Hydra?
Has it been proven, and it seems like it would you play this card, would it skip a battle cry that your weapon has?
I believe it would,
because
but I don't know definitively.
What I was thinking of is the Hammer of Naru. Like you could say play this, then you get to have your Hammer of Naru, which is a 6-mana card. You get your 3/3 weapon, you get your 6/6 all at once. Seems pretty cool. But if this bypasses your battle cry, that's pretty weak. And I think it's kind of like recruiting a minion with battle cry. You recruit the minion, battle cry doesn't happen.
I anticipate that's how it would work. It would be to skip the battle cry.
Yeah, I mean, that was the only thing I thought might have been cool.
Yeah, Hammer of the Naru is a really good.
Oh, dude,
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, if you could pull that off, like if you got the battle cry, that'd be crazy.
Yeah,
like that's a stat bomb right there. But and I think there's something to be said for future proofing these type of things. Like there's nothing I see chat kind of going off here, and Disruptor is naming every weapon that has ever existed, and I'm very entertained by it. Yes, you can play this to equip your Kingsbane. That's hilarious. I think
one mana weapon.
I do think I agree that there is potential for this to be very good in the future if there's some weapon that synergizes with it. That's possible. And I think something to keep in mind is that the devs they're 2 sets ahead right now. Right.
Yeah.
And so when they put this stuff out, there's potential that this is going to synergize with some future set that we're not aware of. So I guess that's something to be said.
So as it stands, if it doesn't work with Hammer of Naru, I give it a 1. You can change my score to a 2 if it works with that. We're gonna go with a 1 in Wild.
Love it. Okay, 2 cards left. The last 2 are legendary, neutral legendary cards. The flavor of which are very, very good. So first up is Archdruid Neralex. This is a 3-mana 3/3. Dormant for 2 turns. While dormant, add a dream card to your hand at the end of your turn. So the dream cards that it refers to are the same dream cards that you get from Ysera. I think this flavor-wise is very cute because it refers to the same Emerald Dream. And then we've got this upcoming, Emerald Dream Malfurion hero. And, this is all cool. Dormant cards tend to suck because it's like a tempo loss. Dream cards, here's the interesting thing with the dream cards is that typically you're not getting the dream cards until turn 9 or after if you're playing Ysera, the new one or the old one. The dream cards in and of themselves are pretty good. So the potential to get a dream card early, this card is going to be a tempo loss, right? I'll play this and it's a 3-mana do nothing, and at the end of my turn, I have potential to get a Laughing Sisters or a dragon. What is it? 7/6 dragon for 4 or something like that. That is pretty cool. What I struggle with is where does this go?
Yeah.
I mean, potentially, if I play this on 3, I can play my dream card on 4. The Laughing Sisters, I think, is a 3/5 with can't be targeted by spells or hero powers for 3 mana, which is great. That being said, you have potential to whiff on the dream cards as well. I don't know, you get the 5 damage AoE or the one that buffs the thing and then it dies at the end of the turn, which you might not want that early. There's some interesting potential here. At the end of the day, if I want to hit you in the face and you play a dormant card, then that makes me pretty happy because that's a turn that you essentially did nothing, and so that means I'm that much closer to winning the game.
It's basically 3 turns, right? Because it's dormant for 2, then summoning sickness when it wakes up.
Yeah. I mean, it's so this card in general. I mean, it's really interesting and it's pretty cool. The thing that I dislike about the dream cards is the random factor, which is what made the new Ysera interesting. Is cool, you get all your dream cards now, and now I can choose what I want to play. Versus this, where I'm going to get a random one. That's old Ysera, and I random is not really what I want. So, I don't know. I'm going to give this a 2. I absolutely love the flavor, but in terms of playability, the random makes me too nervous, and the tempo loss I think is not great for us. So, yeah, that's it. Sheep, what do you think?
So in standard, I think that I give this almost straight up a 4 because control priest currently in standard would love to play this. Absolutely.
Yeah.
In wild though, yeah, about that. Like Hydra was saying, whenever it wakes up, then it still has summoning sickness. So let's say we happen to get lucky and drop this on 3, which means that then we have something to do that hopefully is impactful. The dream cards are in fact powerful. Turn 5 rolls around and it wakes up, and now all of a sudden, cool, we have an extra 3/3 on the board, blah blah blah, that's nice. It gets dealt with really easily. We're not protecting ourselves with a taunt or anything in the interim. If this had taunt or was overcosted, like Imprisoned Felmaw, which also gets to have an immediate swing, then I'd be all for it. In Wild, I don't know that a get 2 dream cards over the course of 2 is worth 3 mana.
Mm-hmm.
I'm almost gonna go 1, and I hate to do that because I think this card's flavor is amazing. And it's got great use cases in standard and likely arena and duels as well. But for our format, I can't think of a single time that I would intentionally run Archdruid Gnarlex in my deck. Makes me feel really bad to give him a 1, but
You
here
can
we
play
are.
it. Yeah, you can play it in Baku Priest.
That's true. I have played Highlander Odd Priest before.
Yeah, I have too.
It's fun.
Highlander Odd Priest.
Yeah.
I can't say that I really recommend it if you're trying to ladder. But if you want to,
Oh no, that deck is completely for fun. That said, if your opponent is running Highlander cards, you can steal them. And then you can have like a Reno or anything like that, despite getting the benefit of running odd cards. It's fun. What do you think about not Highlander Odd Priest, but Archdruid Gnarlex Hydra?
I think that it's a super cool card. I used to love playing Ysera when it was one of my only legendaries that I had, and just waiting to see what I got into my hand. And I think this is cool that you're guaranteed to get the 2 while it's dormant. I think that's really neat. It's a tempo loss. It's not good in Wild when you're going up against all these aggressive decks. Maybe if you're going to play a Highlander deck, you can get away with dropping this on turn 3 when you probably should have just been drawing for one of your better cards for later in the game. So cool. And it feels so bad. I'm going to give it a 2 because I think it's fun, and you could play it, and you could probably get away with playing it just because it's fun. Are you gonna, be top legend with this in your deck? Probably not. But I think if you like fun and you want to throw this in one of your Highlander decks, I think you can do it. I think you can get away with it. And I think you could bum people out with some of your dream cards. So I'm gonna give it a 2.
I like it.
I'm open to throwing it in like a Reno Priest or a Reno Warlock just for funsies. So what I get, people are theorizing. So this guy, when dormant, each turn adds a dream card to your hand. So what if you play Gnarlex, and then after 2 turns he wakes up, and then you play Maiev on him to put him back to dormant? Are you gonna get more dream cards? I don't know the answer.
Believe you do. I believe you do. I have not seen science on it, but the way that the card is worded and the way that Maiev is worded,
Yeah,
you should.
it says
You
while
should.
dormant. So if you had
Right.
any effect, like you have to look at it from like a if then, right? Like I deal with some programming at work, and a lot of times we're looking at, it's essentially a logic puzzle made up of if then statements, right? And so if dormant, then dream card. So if you play a card that makes this dormant, you're going to get a dream card. And so that's what Maiev's effect is, make it dormant for 2 turns, right? So there's no proof, but I think that that's how it would work. I don't mind testing it out. I think that's pretty interesting, actually. So I'm open to it. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and if it doesn't work like that, I think that if someone did a friendly tweet towards the devs and was like, hey, is this working as intended, that it might be fixed, because the way that it's written, that's how it should work.
Yeah. I like that. All right, you guys, we got one card left to review. I've been really looking forward to this card because this is the spicy card. Mutinous the Devourer, 7 mana, 4/4 Murloc. Battle cry, eat a minion in your opponent's hand, gain its stats. This card is rad. Is it good? I don't know. It's definitely awesome. So I saw a meme the other day and I posted it in the Discord, and essentially what it says is like, when I play this, it eats a 1/1 in my opponent's hand, and when my opponent plays it, it eats a 10/10 in my hand. And that's what worries me a little bit. I think that if you're seeing combo decks, if we continue to see Mizaki Mage, Flamewaker Mage, combo whatever, that this is fun. Like, this almost reminds me of like the Amazing Reno, where like the card is gone. There's no death rattle, there's no nothing, like it's just gone. And now this guy gets bigger
Well,
by eating it.
It's in your belly. That's where it went.
Yeah.
Get in my belly. Yeah.
Not enough Merkle inflection on that.
I don't think I could do that.
I don't think I could either.
I tried to imagine it, couldn't.
I love this card. I think this is another one that, like, for funsies, I will toss it in a Highlander build, and then, like, it could be good, it could be bad. Like, 7 mana is awfully slow for what it does, and
yeah,
because you don't get to pick what it eats, like, I don't know. This is one, like, you could make a whole Trollden video or a Hearthstone Daily Moments video on what it ate. And there's going to be times like where I see this being super good. Like, hey, this is cool. Like, if I'm playing against Darkglare and it eats a giant, hey, I'm happy. If I'm playing against Handbuff Paladin and they've like buffed their whole hand and this eats a giant buffed minion, that makes me really happy. But like, the random effect makes me nervous because there's equally a chance that it's going to eat a little baby minion, and then I just had a big tempo loss because I played a 7-cost minion. And like, I understand there are ways to discount it or bounce it or whatever. I think it's fun, 100% fun. We talk about viability, that's a different issue. I'm gonna give it a 3 for playable. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think it has really fun combo disruption potential. It's like a better Dirty Rat, sort of. Dude, it costs 7. You can run it with Bran. Does that mean that it eats 2 minions? Ooh.
Yep.
So there's potential, and I think this is pretty cool. What do you think, Sheep?
I completely agree. I'm just wonder if the 7 mana cost is too big of an ask for anything that we've got. And I think that the effect is powerful enough that, it synergizes with some of our more control-y archetypes, be it our Celestial Alignment Druid, or our LPG Mage, or Priest. It's hard to evaluate Mutinous as at 7 mana, though, because of how variable the stat line is. I think at the end of the day, I'm going to have to go 3. as well. I oscillated between 2 and 3, and I think it's disruption is good. You get the stats. Even if you just eat something small, it's no longer in their hand, and they, if it's in their hand, it was probably in their deck. And if it, was generated, then you're still taking resources away from them, regardless of what that stat line is, and that's powerful. Just the fact that it comes so late in the game, that is the only reason why I was debating the 2 on that one. What do you think, Hydra?
My favorite part about it is it doesn't have the condition that we had earlier, where we've talked about all these cards where it's a 2-card combo to do what you want to do. It's not like Zarella where you need to have, healed first. You don't, you're not drawing specific cards to then draw another card. You're like, it does what it does. It's all in the text. You're not relying on a second card or third card or deck building restriction or anything like that. Like if this was like, imagine this set, if your deck contained only odd cards, you could do this, or just something silly, right? Or when this dies, they get the minion back. It's done. It's over with. This is a dirty rat that doesn't require a Shadow Word Pain or Death afterwards, or like whatever, so they can't Zola it back to their hand. Like this, it's done. It's over. That card is now gone. 7 mana is very expensive. You can do a lot of things in Hearthstone for 7 mana in Wild, but you're running this for a very good reason. I see that this could probably be a dead card a lot of the time in your hand when you got better things to do. I mean, like, I've struggled with Luna Pocket Galaxy when you're trying to keep up with the board and you don't want to play it because you don't have a better way to cheat it out. And it may be hard to find a turn that you're going to play this, but at least it's on a stick. And if you grab something, smaller, it could stand up for itself and at least have some board presence. I think it's definitely a
7 mana 5/5.
Yeah, 7 mana 5/5 if you accidentally grab their Blood Mage Thalanos. Something like that. But I mean, you're playing this later in the game. This isn't something you're playing against aggro with like a couple of dirtily 1/1s in their deck. I think you're definitely gonna get a lot of value off this, and you're gonna time it. I mean, depending on their draw, if they've tutored something, when to possibly play this. So I think it's good. I think it's a great card. I don't think it's meta defining. I don't think it's going to be necessarily in every top tier deck, but it's playable. This is definitely a 3-star card for sure. And I kind of want to see, I might make it in gold just because of its tongue and its eyeballs. Because
they flap
those
around.
Eyeballs dart around. Yeah. It's adorable.
I do like the idea of playing it in Shutterwalk Shaman. That feels entertaining to me.
Oh my gosh. It just continually eating minions.
Hey, I mean, that's fun.
And you run that with the quest, right?
My jaws. Oh, wow.
And jaws do, in fact, bind.
Yeah. Well, you guys, that is it for our card review. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. We've been recording for a long time now. Surprise, surprise. We've been live for 5 hours now. Let's kind of wrap up the show. Do you guys have any final thoughts on the cards?
I don't, but I was just looking. We still have the weekly challenge.
Oh gosh, we'll make it very quick.
Yes.
It's quite late, especially where Sheep is. So let's transition. We do have a weekly challenge over here. So I'll jump into it real quick. So last week's challenge was to play the Carnivorous Cube. It was the most creative OTK using a Carnivorous Cube. We had 2 people that really participated. It was Mediocre Ogre and Dr. Bomb. It's very cool, crazy ideas that we got here. And so I'm going to look at Mediocre Ogres first as kind of our runner-up. And so what he did was sort of a 2-turn combo, was play Celestial Alignment, Mana Ramp, Coppertail Imposter into Mimron's Head, which then created a Voltron. Next turn, Cube, Carnivorous Cube, pop the cube, and Survival of the Fittest on Voltron. So it's hard to see here, but these Voltrons, what are they, 8 attack, I think? Yeah. So each Voltron is 8 attack, Mega Wind Fury. So this is super crazy, right? That's definitely awesome. My slight hesitation is that really the spirit of this is an OTK, and this requires 2 turns to set up. But like, wow, okay, this is crazy, and I'm super impressed. I think we all were super impressed talking about this ahead of time. Like, we have a soft spot in our heart for Voltron. We have for quite a while, and seeing this pop off is just crazy. The next combo that we got was from Dr. Bomb, which was even like how he thought of this, and this is a legit OTK. How he thought of this, I have no idea. I've never seen an unstable apothecary OTK ever. So here's what he did. Unstable Apothecary, what it does, if you're not familiar with the card, because we never play it, it's this 5/5 demon over here that says, after you summon a minion, deal 5 damage to your hero. So what he's done here is play the Unstable Apothecary, cubed it, Treachery to give it to the opponent, Terror Guard Escapee, which then summons 3 1/1 hundredths for your opponent. And so with double Apothecary, it's like 10 damage, 10 damage, 10 damage. Like, it's legit 30 damage OTK. Which is just like, what now? I'd never
Galaxy Brain.
Like, yeah.
It's awesome. I absolutely love that combo. I've versed people that have accidentally, like they've devolved into this or evolved into it or whatever, and then they've killed themselves by accident by not understanding how the card works.
Yeah. So I think we're
they
all
hover over it.
This is a nutty combo here. I think we're all in agreement that Dr. Bomb is our weekly challenge winner for this week. So Doc, congrats.
Congrats, Dr. Bob.
I'll reach out and you get a couple of packs on us, and definitely some bragging rights here. So congrats, Dr. Bomb. As for this week's challenge, was sent to us by Ben Hearthstone. The timing could not be better because we have Mutinous the Destroyer as a brand new card. So his suggestion for our weekly community challenge: who can make the biggest stat Mutinous through eating your opponent's minions? So that's it. That's as simple as it gets. You play this. We're looking for the largest Mutinous based on stats from eating your opponent's minions. So this is not buffing it. Like, I'm sitting here thinking about it. It was like, oh, I can hand buff it. And so that it starts out bigger and then it eats something. Like, no. We're looking for eat something gigantic.
So a Bran into this, it still got it from eating. The Quest Shaman, doubling up the battle cry to eating also counts because it gets them from eating.
Mm-hmm.
Hand buffing or board buffing outside of the eating, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
So wait, if you eat, say you're versing a hand buff paladin who's buffed the crap out of their guys in their hand, do you get
that's
the stats
fine.
or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. What we don't want is for them to play this and then like divine spirit, inner fire. Like, look, I'm not looking for you to buff this card. It has to get buffed by eating something huge. So there's a little bit random factor in this, but like, hey, I mean, this is wild, and you've got a week. So if you're not familiar with these weekly challenges, here's how it works. This is the challenge. We're looking for the biggest stat Mutinous through eating your opponent's minions. Like Sheep said, there's some tricks that you can use to get have some extra eating going on. your likelihood, the question is, do you automatically win if your Mutinous is gold? No, but I hear that your Mutinous eats better minions if it's gold. So it's worth testing out. The way that you do this, you've got to be a member in our Discord, and then you post your either your screenshot or your HS replay or your Firestone replay in. We've got a channel for contest entries. Post it there, and we'll review it over the week. And it's got to be done in time for next week's show. Here's the rules. You can either do it on ladder, standard or wild ladder, or you can do it in casual. That's fine. Cannot do it against a friend. Cannot do it against the innkeeper. That's just too easy. So that's the challenge for this week. Thank you, Ben, for the suggestion. The timing could not have been better. So that's exciting for us. And that is it for this week's challenge. To kind of wrap up the show here, thank you all very much for hanging out. This has been a long night, but love doing card review shows. So it's always a really good, really fun time. Quick shout out to the patrons of our show. Thank you so very much for supporting us. First and foremost, to Shokunin for being the executive producer of our show. Thank you for everything that you've done for us and for supporting the show. And also to our patrons, Disruptor, Claudette G, Daniel B, Wildcard, Aramorn, Ben from Work, AJ Gomez, and Number Theory. I got it right this week.
Yeah.
Or as I would say, NM Berthy. Yeah, thank you guys very much for supporting us. We really appreciate it. If anybody watching or listening is interested in supporting the show financially, you can visit our website. It's borntobewildhs.com. If you click on the Find Us page, there's a link to our Patreon. We're sort of in the process of revamping and revitalizing it. So changes soon, TM. But thank you all very much for your support. If you're somebody who is on Twitch and is interested in unlocking these emotes, we do have these really cute dragon emotes from an amazing artist named Christina Oe that I recommend. One final shout out, big thank you to Firestone Deck Tracker, who has provided us with premium access to their deck tracker and has been super communicative and really fun to work with. If you're looking for a deck tracker, I recommend them. Their UI is absolutely gorgeous and fun to use. I know a handful of us are using that in conjunction with HS Replay, but it's growing constantly, and they're very open to suggestions. We've got a good working relationship with them, so if you start using it and you have suggestions, you're welcome to funnel them through me, and I can funnel them to them. The app is free. There is a premium version that costs $2.99 a month if that's something that you're interested in. And that is it for us. Sheep, thank you so much for joining us, especially now. I feel bad. It is now 1:23 in the morning where you're at. Thank you for your time. Where can people find you if they want to check out your content?
Yeah, you can find me around the internet at ElectricSheepCity, except for where that doesn't fit, like Twitter, where it's at eSheepCity.
Very, very cool. Hey, thank you again for hanging out. Hydra, where can people find you?
You can always find me at Hydralisk_HS on Twitter and Twitch, and you can always find me and these other fine gentlemen hanging out in our Discord, and I highly recommend you guys come check that out. It's a great community, good place to come, either just talk with your friends or come check out some wild decks, or if you're just looking to get into wild and looking to find a place to start, we're here for you. Come check it out, and we'll see you there soon.
Awesome. As for me, you can find me pretty active on Twitter at NateWolfTCG. It's NateWolfe TCG. More importantly, you can find the show at borntobewildhs.com. There you can find all of our past podcasts. We've got some parody songs. We've got lots of YouTube stuff, and then links to the Discord where we've got a very active and fun community that I recommend joining. Thank you all so much for hanging out. And we will see you all next week on another new episode of Born to be Wild.
Born to be wild.